All right. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I want to, for those who don't know me, my name is Zach Bullard with the Dallas County Democratic Party, joined with my colleague Will Pfeiffer. As I mentioned just a second ago, we have some exciting days ahead. I know everybody is probably reaching a tired point. They're reaching a point where they're becoming exhausted, and that's of course normal. As we get down to the wire here, but soon enough we're going to be even more excited than we are now. I know that doesn't seem possible, but we're getting very close to early voting, just about 20 days away. So for those who are not aware, just want to recap some of our events that we do have every week. Of course, we have Training Thursdays, which happen every Thursday at this time, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's a great way to learn more about practices and what's available and resources such as VAN, phone banking. Tonight we'll be talking about lit dropping, getting started in your precinct or neighborhood, or venturing out to other neighborhoods to help cover those with Democratic material. And then we also have Mobilize Mondays, which is a laid back group discussion where we kind of just do an activity together. So for instance, this coming Monday, we're going to be focusing on texting. And I know I probably sounded a lot of excitement bells in some of our folks that have been on edge waiting for text messaging to come. And I'm happy and proud to say that it's finally coming. We are ready to start pumping that out. So Monday at 6:30 p.m., we'll have our Mobilize Monday. We're going to cover all things texting. So it's going to be sort of like a training / mobilization group discussion. We're going to train everybody on how texting will work with our system. We're using a different system than most folks are probably accustomed to. You probably use something like Hustle or BlueLink or ThruText over the last couple of years or last few months. We're using a new system called Peerly. And if you liked Hustle, then I promise you're going to love Peerly. It is way simpler. It's way easier. You don't have to hit the button over and over again. You're actually able just to hold a couple keys on your keyboard, and you can watch Netflix, or you can kind of space out for a bit, and it will handle the rest for you. So we're going to talk about all that on Monday. So please go ahead and register for that and get in line with that. We also are going to have some other discussions about Outvote, which we've talked about before, where it analyzes your contacts and looks them up to see what their voting history is and if they're Democrat or Republican primary voters. And then it has a text message for you that sends out currently it's about making sure that they're registered to vote. You can also submit like a testimonial about why you're voting Democratic this year. And we're going to share those on our social media coming up in about a week or so once we get into October and closer to early voting. And Will, you and I had an idea earlier about what else we're going to use with Outvote. And I should have written it down or kept the piece of paper in front of me, because we were really excited about having folks encourage them to go do what?
Early voting locations.
That's right. Sending out a list of early voting locations to their friends is, of course, very important, because a lot of folks don't maybe realize that early voting has started. And then, of course, there's sets of folks that they know it's going on, but they don't know where to go. And the good thing about Dallas and Collin and Tarrant County is you can vote at any location in the county, which is, of course, very helpful in the grand scheme of things. Then on Tuesday, we're going to have it's the first presidential debate. First off, if nobody is aware, the first presidential debate with Joe Biden and that guy in the White House currently is going to be Tuesday, I believe, at 8 p.m. So we're going to get together and start our text messaging via Zoom for a little camaraderie and some fun beforehand, and then we can start watching the debate together. So stay tuned for that as well. And then next Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be having candidate tours across Dallas County. So on Wednesday night, we're going to be hearing from Judge Purdy, Judge Birmingham, who are both running this year on the ballot. Judge Birmingham, of course, running statewide. We're going to be hearing from State Representative Ana Maria Ramos and State Representative Julie Johnson. We're going to have several other candidates coming up with that. Again, that's next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And this is a special one next Thursday. We are not going to have a training Thursday because we're going to have another candidate tour, which is hopefully more exciting. That you'll get to hear from other candidates as well. Next Thursday night, we're going to hear from Retta Bowers, State Representative Retta Bowers, who was endorsed by the Dallas Morning News today, and soon to be State Representative Brandy Chambers. I also believe Carolyn Salter, who's running for Congressional District 5, is going to be joining us, as well as several other candidates down the ballot. So keep those in your mind. Those are some great virtual events that are coming up. And then, of course, tonight what we're talking about is lit dropping. So we're going to go over anything and everything related to lit dropping, any other questions that you might have, talk about best practices. And all of this is to get ready for our next lit dropping Saturday, which is this weekend, Saturday from 10 to 12. You can come join Will Pfeiffer and some awesome volunteers at the DCDP office at 1414 North Washington Avenue. And he's even going to have donuts this week. Will, where are you going to get the donuts? Are you going to get Hypnotic donuts? Okay. That's a thumbs up.
Oh, it's way too expensive.
Fine. We're still going to have...
I'll go wherever the popular demand is. How about that?
All right. Well, we're still going to have delicious donuts. We're going to have coffee. We're going to have water, all that good stuff. And of course, it will be set up so it's safe for everyone to grab. And then he will also have a turf for you of some doors. Will's going to talk a little bit about where we're heading this particular weekend. Essentially, what we're doing is we're coordinating with other campaigns and coordinating with other groups that are doing activity across Dallas County. And we're going to help cover places that currently aren't covered. Maybe there's no precinct chair or there's just no campaign activity going on for whatever reason. We're going to step in and we're going to cover those doors and make sure we help turn out the vote. So it may be your precinct, it may not be. Regardless, we need to help get them covered. And if you are interested in doing your precinct still or finishing your precinct, just let us know. We can, of course, help you get that accommodated. So let's go ahead and kick off. I'm going to just go over some quick things. And Will, can you give me a co-host ability so I can share my screen?
Yes, that would help, wouldn't it? There we go.
All right, here we go. So we're just gonna go over real quick about the basics of lit dropping. I'm sure everybody in here is fairly aware of what lit dropping is. It's short, first off, for literature dropping. So, imagine door knocking, but you're not actually having to knock the doors and talk to people. Instead, you're just going to leave the literature on the door and you're going to move on. Now, some folks want to knock the doors, and that's completely okay. If you're wearing a mask, you're practicing social distancing, and we're being good human beings and good Democrats and respecting that, I think that there's some ways that you can do that safe, but I leave that really to your personal discretion. We believe that as long as the literature is getting into the hands of the voters somehow, some way, it's making a difference, it's helping. Some ideas that have been tossed around is leaving the literature, knocking the door, and then walking back like you're walking away, and maybe walking slow. So when you get to the end of the driveway, they open the door, and then you can have a very distant conversation with somebody about what you're there for and what you left them. Or you can just step away and wait a couple of minutes, like typical door knocking, but you just have more space between you. Obviously, one of the most important things in all of this is to wear your mask when you're out and about. So, there we go. Where should we lit drop? Well, it is always best to target Democratic doors, so that's what we will help you do. We'll get you a list of Democratic doors in any given area. Could be your precinct, which of course we've been providing to our precinct chairs and organizers already. If you haven't gotten your list or you need a new list or whatever it might be, just let us know. But we are only going after Democratic doors. We're not trying to go persuade Republicans. We're not trying to find anything like that. What we're trying to do is go to the people that we know they're going to show up and vote Democratic, but we need to get them to show up. But number two, what we're trying to do is spread the word, even if it's a great, I always vote every single election Democrat, like most of us in this room probably are, but not all of us know that there's no straight ticket. I talked to somebody that has voted every single election and they were like, what do you mean there's no straight ticket? And I explained, yep, you got to click down the ballot. Sheriff Brown says you got to pick it for the ticket. So that's the other thing that really trying to drive home is don't stop at the top, vote for every Democrat. That's what our material talks about. If we're talking on the phone, that's what we're talking about over the phone in our scripts. So that's why we're really trying to go after those Democratic doors, all the way from I never show up to vote to I always vote, but if I do show up, I vote Democratic. We just want to make sure they get that information. So we'll provide you a list. We can put it on paper where it prints out sheets and you have physical paper in your hands with a list of addresses to flip through. Or we can give you a list number and a map, and that you load onto Minivan, which Will is going to go over in just a little bit. We also give some instructions about that when we provide that to you on Saturday. So when should we lit drop? So we're doing this every single Saturday through the election, of course, but maybe you're out doing it on your own with stuff that we provided to you, and you're wondering for your particular areas, or you're wondering for just general time schedules. The most effective time frames is right now before early voting to get as much done as possible, and also the weekend before early voting. Maybe you're wanting to wait in your precinct, or maybe you've already done your precinct or neighborhood and you want to go back and do it again. Then the weekend before early voting, which is October 10th to the 12th, that's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday because it's Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day here in Dallas County. Early voting starts October 13th. And then do it again the weekend before Election Day. Now, of course, since we're trying to cover as much ground as humanly possible between now and then, we're going to keep chugging along. But if you're wondering about your particular area, that's when we really want to get those targets and those doors knocked out, because that's one of the most critical time frames. The reason for this is lit dropping, of course, is not as interactive, and it's not as deep as door knocking is. So it doesn't have as much stickiness in people's heads and the voters' heads, and not as long lasting. So that's why we really want to time it just perfectly. Now that we're entering near the debate times and we're entering near early voting and mail ballots are going out, they started last Saturday. Now is the time that we really, really want to push out. And those 2 weekends before, of course, are the most critical times when maybe we hit everything, we want to go hit it again. And of course, if we can do that, that's what we want to try to do. So point being here, multiple passes to doors, multiple literature drops are not a bad thing. It's always good to remind the voter over and over and over again about what's going on. What should we lit drop? Well, we have informational slate cards. So on one side, it has information about the loss of straight ticket. And on the other side, it has information about all the candidates. It's got a whole list of candidates on the back. So this is helpful in particular because it, again, has that very, very easy to digest information about the loss of straight ticket voting. Great news is we have already distributed 40,000 of those door cards across Dallas County, and we're getting another 70,000 of those door cards tomorrow morning from the Union shop. So Will and I are going to load them up and unload them at the party office. They'll be available. You can pick them up again beginning Saturday. You can take enough for your turf on Saturday and also enough if you need some for your neighborhood. You can also pass out sample ballots. This is a great idea that some precinct chairs have been doing over the course of several years. They print out a sample ballot from the DallasCountyVotes.org website. They bubble in every single Democrat on the list and their recommendations, and then they leave that on the doors. So that's a great thing to do as well. You can also use precinct chair and organizer letters, which we have a generator. We'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. Which is another great tool. It's similar to a sample ballot, but a little bit less formal and more informal communication from you, a person to person. Lit sticks, of course, have started since 2018, and those are going to be, they're still popular this year, and those are going to be getting distributed across Dallas County by various groups over the next couple of weeks. So maybe you are doing part of those as well. But as I say here at the bottom, you can do all of the above. As I mentioned a second ago, you don't have to be afraid of going out with a lit stick and then the next week going out with the door card that we had and then going with the sample ballot. It doesn't hurt. If they haven't voted yet, I remember having a phone call in 2014 and this very, very nice lady answered, and she was kind of annoyed because we had called her before. But the reason she was annoyed is because we had called her like the day before about the same thing, going to vote. And we just politely said, well, we'll take you off the list when you vote. And that's a great mindset to have. Really, it's not annoying the voter overly annoying them. It's making the point over and over and over again. It's time to vote. It's time to vote. It's time to vote. And also that loss of straight ticket. We're trying to get in people's heads as much as possible. These are the dates. These are the time frames. This is where you go. This is who to vote for. And the more we do that over and over again, as I mentioned, the stickier it is in their head and it's more lasting. So especially when they go to the actual ballot and we don't have straight ticket, they say, oh, I got a card with this name on it, so I'm going to click that name. Or I got a card that said just hit every Democratic box. So it really makes a huge, huge difference. Some best practices. Number one, do not leave anything in the mailbox. Now that I got that base covered, just want to emphasize it. That is the one thing we do not ever do. It is a frowned upon act by the U.S. Post Office and the government. So we don't do that, and we do everything to avoid that. So what you can do is I like to leave it about eye level of the door jamb. So, imagine you're walking up to the front door and just where would your eyes hit first? About midway. Stick it right there in the door jamb. So that way when they open the door, it's going to fall and they're going to be like, oh, what's that? Or when they walk up to the door, they're going to see this card right there in the jamb and they're going to say, oh, let me grab that. So imagine just when you're going up to that door, where would you see this card and say, I got to get that? You can also wedge it between the door handle. Maybe you got to kind of fold it a little bit or stick it in between, whatever kind of works. It kind of just depends on the door handle itself. Or you can take a thing of clear tape and tape it on the door handle. Try to avoid anything painted because sometimes that does peel the paint, and that obviously would not help us get a vote if they come home and see their paint has been scrubbed off a bit by tape of a Democratic or political flyer. So do it on the metal hanger, and that normally helps take care of that situation. So those are kind of just the general things. We want to leave it open to some general questions here and see what's going on. Before we do that real quick, Will, can you tell us about Minivan? How's that work?
Absolutely. So Minivan is the mobile version of Texas Van, which I'm sure a lot of precinct chairs are familiar with, where you can log in and pull lists of targeted voters, and then you upload them into Minivan, the app. So real quick, let me mirror my phone. I imagine a handful of people already have Minivan on their phone, as it has been used in previous elections. There we go. But if you do not, if you have an iPhone, just go to your app store. There should be a Google store if you have an Android. Go to the bottom right to search. We're going to look up Minivan. It should pop up as Minivan Touch. There it is. So you'll just download that. I already have it downloaded. Let me quickly show you how it looks when you're not signed in. So if you have, if you know you've used this in previous elections, maybe during the 2018 general election, my suggestion would be, it's perfectly normal to not remember your password or perhaps the email. So I would just do forgot password, punch in an email that you could potentially have used for that account, and it'll send you a recovery email to reset your password and get all that set up. If not, you will go to create an action ID. Just fill out all the information here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just select whatever email you want to use. Put your phone number because it will go through, or your cell phone number, because it will go through a two-step verification process where it'll send you a code every time you log in. So I'll go back. Let me sign in really quick.
And while he signs in, I wanted to mention, if you're a precinct organizer or volunteer or whatever it might be, you don't have a van account itself, that's totally okay. As he mentioned, you just can create one. It takes about 5 minutes. If you are a precinct chair organizer and you have a van account because of that, you can use the same login with your action ID. If you have any trouble, just let us know. This is typically right here where people land into some confusion. It's that two-step verification which they added about 18 months ago after the whole Russian hacking. Lots of information came out about that, and it's meant to protect us from infiltration like that, because then it kind of cuts off some avenues. So I know it causes some confusion because it's kind of odd to get set up, but once you're good to go, you're good to go.
All right. So before I'm going to jump back to Van here in just a second. Zach, is my screen showing okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to preview with everybody where we plan to walk this weekend, or lit drop, excuse me. I've selected some precincts in Commissioner District 1 and 3, where we have Commissioner Dr. Teresa Daniel and John Wiley Price, respectively. So I feel like it's a good idea to hit those commissioner districts because we've got races going on there. So 1082 is one that we're hitting. These are kind of how the turfs look over there. And this is all going to make sense in just a minute. This list number, once you have your Van app downloaded and you have your account created, this list number is what you will then enter in, and this will load this whole turf into your minivan app, where you can have every address right in front of you, and you'll have a map just like this that you can look at. I just kind of wanted to show where you guys will likely be walking this upcoming Saturday. And in addition, if you can't get minivan, we have created some paper lists for you that look just like this. It'll have all of the address information, pretty much all the information you would get from minivan, but it's just on a paper list. So if you prefer the old-fashioned way, we're more than happy to accommodate. But yes, we're going to be hitting a lot of East Dallas and the southern sector, and I've done my best to make these turfs really pretty, so you can just kind of like make one route rather than having to jump all over the place and cut through streets or things like that. So they should be pretty easy to navigate, especially through minivan, because you'll be able to share your location with minivan, and it'll show you where you are exactly, and you can then go back and forth. So I just wanted to show how the turfs look right off the bat and give everybody an idea of where they'll be going. And like I said, these are precincts where it's a vacant seat. And obviously we need to make sure, I know a lot of people are working on their precincts, and that work is so appreciated, but we also have to pick up, do a little extra work for some of these areas where we don't have an active chair. So let me go back to my phone. All right. So as I said before, when you are entering your list number, it is going to be the number in the top right corner of the turf that you're given on Saturday. And we will also, I'll be there on Saturday. I can help you troubleshoot your van if there's something going on with it. And we'll be able to answer any extra questions there as well. So I'm punching in this list number. And as you can see, I have all of the addresses from that particular turf. It's in alphabetical order by street. There are some apartments over here. Some of them, they should be able to, you should be able to access them. But if not, of course, if it's too much to get in, you can skip those. But we encourage you to give it a try, of course. So as you can see, I have all of my addresses here. I'm going to go click on the first address at the top here, 2201 Anders Drive, and it will give me whoever is a registered voter at that house. Now, the dot or the circles below each address represent how many people are registered at that household according to the Texas Democratic Party. But since we're lit dropping, it doesn't matter which person you select. So if I'm at 2205 Anders Drive, this is just simply to keep track of which houses you've walked and which ones you still need to do. So I'm just going to click on the first person here, and you have a script here, but obviously we're not going to be talking with people. So you would select, I couldn't reach this contact, scroll down, select lit drop, and then you can just go back to your next contact. Now, in previous trainings, we did not have the lit drop as an option on Van. I was just instructing people to mark them as not home, which is perfectly fine as well if that's what you've been doing. But we did add an option just so we can keep a little bit more accurate data. But like I said, you can go back, click I couldn't reach this contact, select lit drop, and then you'll just keep going on. There's a couple of different ways you can view the addresses on Minivan. In my opinion, I think this is the most convenient way. But if you ever are trying to figure out your route, or maybe just a better way to go about punching in your data, in the top left column, you'll select it. There is an option at the very top that if you share your location with Van, you can click Find My Next Door, and it will take you to the closest house. I don't really recommend that with these particular turfs because, like I said, they're all like pretty boxy. You'll mainly just be walking up and down a couple different streets, so I don't find it as useful. People, I wouldn't advise organizing it this way. It just doesn't make any sense. But map is a pretty useful little option. It gives me, obviously I am not at this turf, so it's not going to mark my location. But if you kind of zoom in and out, it shows you where the houses are on the street, and you can select on them individually. So I'll select on this one, click on it, click on whoever's there. I couldn't reach this contact, lit drop. And then I would just go back and do the other houses this way. Like I said, I mostly just use this to kind of route my turf. So I would probably just start at the bottom here, park my car, and work my way all the way up to the top, and then just circle back down once I'm done. So yeah, that's where I kind of find this to come in handy, just to see. Also, you can see, you know, which ones you have done, which ones you haven't, and see if maybe you accidentally skipped one, which will also appear in the household view as well. This button in the top right, it looks like a little cloud with the arrow pointing up. That is the sync button, where it will sync your data for you. If you can look at the top, it says last synced just now. That's how you know. You don't have to do this as you go. It's not really necessary. It sometimes will auto sync it for you, but at the end of your turf, you can simply come over to the top left, and there's a sync option as well. The only thing that it'll do is, if you've been inactive for a long time on Van, it may just sign you out, and you just have to re-sign back in order to sync the data. So, like I said, when you come on Saturday, I mean, I'm sure a handful of people in here have already done this, and I know we've got some really awesome precinct chairs who have been doing tons of lit dropping, and so you probably already know this, but for everybody who doesn't, just kind of a refresher for you. You'll come and get your turf, punch in the list number, and make sure your account is set up on Van. And it's pretty self-explanatory from here. We've really been trying to push this, especially now. It's the perfect time to do it. A lot of those postcards are going to be going out soon. We have been doing all kinds of layering. I mean, any club, the county party, we've all been putting in so much work to try to get the word out. And so it's just the best time to do it. We need to remind people early voting is coming up. This needs to be in the back of their heads. And I think this is the best thing we can do, because as you can see, our Republican counterparts are going and knocking doors and talking to people, which is kind of crazy. And I don't understand why they're doing it, but we need to meet them at their own game somehow, while maintaining safety to everybody, respecting everybody's health. So this is so critical. I know it's easier to sit at home and send text messages, and that work is definitely needed. And I understand people who can't lit drop due to whatever reason. I get it. It's not the most time convenient thing to do, but I just can't emphasize how much this work needs to be done. It's our biggest priority right now. We've got 70,000 cards coming in, and it's so much faster than walking houses anyway. So just would encourage it like crazy. You know, get a couple friends to come with you. You guys could knock it out in an hour or two. You could probably finish like 75 to 100 houses, and that's 75 to 100 voters who have crucial information for the upcoming election. I believe that pretty much covers the overview of how to get set up on Minivan. Zach, if we have any questions, let's see.
Yeah, we've had a couple asking some great questions, actually. First off, I want to shout out to Letty, who is joining us from Laredo area, who they've been doing some lit dropping and door knocking, and they came to join us this evening to learn what's going on here in Dallas County. So Linda, looks like you might have a question. So we'll wait for that. I don't see it going on yet or coming up yet. Another question was, are we only knocking currently registered voters? Yes. So all of those red dots that you see, those are not Republicans. It's just the color that Van chose, ironically. But those are all registered voters, and these are all likely Democrats. So what defines that? As likely Democrat, it's their voting history. It's if they're in a Democratic neighborhood, if they are, you know, demographically likely to be one. It's a whole bunch of just random polls and algorithms and things mixed together that gives them a score. So these are people that have at least a 70% likelihood of being Democratic. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, these could be folks that maybe they've never voted, or maybe they vote all the time. And our logic here is we feel pretty confident this year, especially over the last couple of years as voting has become cooler and you know, more popular. You know, it's a matter of getting people to show up. We've said for years and years and years, Texas is not a red state, we're a non-voting state, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish here. Like I mentioned earlier, one of two things. One, make sure the really great, awesome, always voting Democrats show up and they vote the whole ticket. But then let's find those folks that maybe have never voted before. Or they only vote every couple of elections, or this election and that election spotty. We want to make sure they have this information, and especially with the news going on and the state of politics right now, getting them to show up is going to be easier. It's just a matter of reminding them over and over and over again about it. So for more context about what's going on, we want to make sure that you realize this is one of many various methods of contact that we're doing, but this is one of the most effective contacts that we can do, is leaving this literature on their door. All right, looks like we might have a couple of questions. Let's see. This question from Roseanne. I'm sorry, first from Linda. Statewide offices are same for all the precincts, and county-wise are same for all the precincts. Yes. So if you're looking at our card or you're seeing it on Saturday, on the back has a list of all the candidates. If they're statewide, they're going to be on everybody's ballot across Texas. Now, I know there's some slight confusion about that because like the statewide Supreme Court and the statewide Court of Appeals, they're running for place and then a number. It really is just like a number on a chair at a table. The statewide Supreme Court and statewide Court of Criminal Appeals are multi-judge panel benches. So everybody gets to vote on them. And then it's just basically like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I believe it goes up to 8 or 9. So they're going to be on everybody's ballot. Same thing with the county-wise. I know that's kind of strange too, because like Monica Purdy, for example, is running for the 95th Judicial Court. Eric Moyer is running for the 14th Judicial Court. District Court is actually the exact title. Everybody's in that district here in Dallas County. So it sounds a little weird, kind of backwards thinking, but we all get to vote on them. The only things that are specific are like our state house races, our congressional races, and I believe we have one more, our county commissioners that are specific areas. So state representatives are just based upon their lines, depending upon what part of town you're in. U.S. congressional races. If you're kind of in West Dallas, you're likely in Congressional District 33. Northwest Dallas County is Congressional District 24, like where Terry Barker is up in Coppell, where we're going to elect the first Afro-Latina with Candace Valenzuela. Central and Northeast Dallas County, Garland, Richardson. Parts of East Dallas is Colin Allred with Congressional District 32. And then Southern Dallas County is going to be Congressional District 30 with Representative Johnson. And if you're in East Dallas, Mesquite, parts of Garland, Zeegoville, you're likely in Congressional District 5 with, as I mentioned, Carolyn Salter. So those are kind of just where you're at, and that will be more specific. County commissioners are based upon your precinct. So if your precinct number starts with a 1, you're in Teresa Daniel, Commissioner District 1, which is on the ballot. If your precinct starts with a 3, you're in Commissioner District 3, which is John Wiley Price. And then Commissioner District 2 and 4, which are North and Western Dallas counties respectively, are not on the ballot this year. So we have all of those listed. And then a question from Roseanne, do we highlight the candidates running specific districts? So our card has everybody listed, and then what we show you on Saturday as an option is you can highlight which district that is. So you can just take a yellow or orange or whatever color highlighter right over it. Another precinct chair, Susie Hess, has a metallic Sharpie marker, and she puts a little star next to whatever district she's in. Not something you have to do, but it's something certainly that's available as an option. And that's what I see in the way of questions so far. So I hope this has provided some insight and kind of how things operate in the lit job world, but it is super duper important and really, really makes a difference, especially as we continue to get closer and closer to Election Day. Question from Noah, how do you know that a person is a likely Democratic voter? Isn't the information private? So yes, we do know how they vote in a primary. So if you go vote in the Democratic primary, that's a public record. We don't know who you voted for. We just know that you voted in the Democratic primary. Who you vote for in November is pretty similar. We know that you voted. We don't necessarily know that you voted one way or the other. But there's polling and demographic data and areas of town and trends based upon those demographics and so on that statisticians and models and all of that pump all that information together and extrapolate a score. Basically, again, it's a 0 to 100% score. The higher you are, the higher up you are on that, the more likely you are to be a Democratic voter, and the lower you are, the more likely you are to be a Republican voter. So it's fairly accurate. Occasionally you'll get a mix up on that. It's not 100% good to go, but it is very, very, very accurate. And especially as we've, these things have become better and better over time, because things like us out in the field, knocking on doors and talking to people and leaving things at doors, we get information back about people and about their trends and their voting history and patterns. So all of that also gets pumped into it. A note on that, when you're out doing stuff, as Will mentioned, when you mark people not home and stuff, if you go up to a door and you leave something on their door and you see that they got a Joe Biden sign or they've got a Carolyn Salter or a Colin Allred sign, you could go ahead and mark that person as a Democratic voter, because we know that they're going to be voting Democratic because they got that sign there. So that helps us get information since we're not talking to as many people. That is something that helps us get some information in stone and helps us know what's going on the ground. Let's see. A question from Jane, is there a video on how to cut turf? Yes, we do have a van training video. And that's a great point, Jane, because you've taken us directly segued to where I wanted to chat about next. Let me put up my screen here. So this is our website, dallasdemocrats.org. Lots of great stuff. First off, if you have not signed up to become an election worker, you totally definitely should consider it. You get paid to do that. I believe it's about $16 an hour to work on election day. And I can't say that better. You will be helping defend democracy. If you like a yard sign for Biden-Harris, we do have them at our Democratic Party office on Washington, and we also have them at several locations across Dallas County, including Garland, Richardson, Irving, Oak Cliff, Coppell, Carrollton, I mean, all over the place. If you, East Dallas, Lake Highlands, if you, Mesquite, if you need a sign, you don't want to drive all the way downtown, that's no problem. We got you covered. But what I wanted to also point out was the Precinct Chair Toolbox. This has some really great stuff in it, not just for precinct chairs, but also for activists and volunteers and organizers. First off, we have this letter generator, which I mentioned a second ago, that can be used to leave stuff on doors. You just have to pump in a couple of pieces of information and it will generate a PDF letter for you to print out, or we'll print it out for you if you wish. You can also look for our training videos. So we have the all of our videos that we do every Thursday on our YouTube channel, which can be easily found right here near the bottom of that page. We also have some PDFs and some FAQs that might help you. If you're looking for your precinct or precinct chair, you can find that on here as well. Maybe your precinct is open and you'd like to sign up, or you'd like to get partnered up with your current precinct chair, which is always great. And then the other thing is our Mobilize America page, which I'll put here in the chat in just a second. If you want to sign up for this weekend's Don't Stop, we're actually calling it the Donut Stop at the top, Lit Drop. Just plug in your information and let us know. That way we're able to be prepared for you. And then also, as mentioned earlier, you can sign up to do virtual phone banking. If you use this option, you can go ahead and sign up right now, and you can call all the way until about 8:45 at any given evening. You can go and sign up right now. It would give you the instructions to get started calling right this instant to people in your neighborhood, which is really cool. Of course, we have training Thursdays. As a reminder, we are not going to be having training Thursday next week because we have that candidate tour meet and greet with Retta Bowers and Brandy Chambers and other great candidates. You can sign up to use our phone burner application, which is really great. You can sign up for shifts. We have several shifts throughout the day. Looks like tomorrow afternoon and evening is currently open. We will load up your precinct in your neighborhood. That way you can call voters in your area. Will has been taking the lead on that, doing an awesome job making sure folks have voters in their neighborhood. This system basically allows you to dial in. Then the system will dial the numbers for you instead of you having to hand dial every single one. You just have to dial one time and not worry about it. And then you sit back and wait for somebody to answer. The cool thing is it also allows you to leave a voicemail automatically. So you don't have to wait and say the same thing over and over again and then dial the numbers over and over again. You can just pump through a lot of calls in a short amount of time. An average person can make about 75 to 100 calls using the phone burner system in about an hour. Sometimes less, sometimes a little more, just kind of depending on what you run into at that time. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we have Mobilize Monday. We're going to be talking about all things texting. And then we have the Dallas County Candidate Tour coming up as well next Wednesday and Thursday. So great stuff. Again, I'm going to put this link here in the chat room. That way you have it easily accessible. So please go sign up for some of the upcoming awesome events. All right, there we go. Let's see. It looks like we might have another question. Great question here. Is there a recording of this seminar that you can watch? Yes. So as soon as this is over, the file will compress and then we will get it on our YouTube channel this evening. So check back a little bit later this evening, as I mentioned, on that Precinct Chair Toolbox, and you can load this video right up and check out the rest of it. All right, do we have any more questions for the evening? Anything about lit dropping, general questions that we're here to help with? I think we actually did miss one. Olga, 200 people in the precinct whose registration shows us suspended. That's a great question. This is kind of a bit of a weird thing. Basically, if sometimes somebody's voter registration will be marked as suspense. And what that means is the elections department tried to send you a voter registration card, but it got returned. Could be an accident, could be whatever reason. But essentially it puts you on a list to that you need to get your stuff updated. Number one, if you're a voter and this has happened to you, you can still vote. There's no reason you can't vote. You are still registered. You're still eligible. you still get to do it. All that they will likely do is ask you to update your registration when you do go vote. If you're seeing this in your list in your precinct neighborhood, we do have some ways that you could help work on that. So Olga, I will reach out to you and we'll talk about that just a little further in depth. From Christian, 2019, which is a really great Democratic precinct building up. They've already covered it with slate cards, which is awesome. Love to hear it. And looks like that might be in the way of questions. All right. Well, with that, we will, one great question here just popped up. Information about taking people to the polls. Yes. So if you would like to help take people to the polls, you can always call the party office at 214-821-8331. And we're having a running list of people that are interested in doing that. And then when it comes time to early voting, we'll pair up people with you that are, if you're available or near you. Secondly, we also have multiple rides to the polls programs that we're going to be working with. So we're going to have great information coming out about that very, very soon once we just get a tad bit closer to early voting and we finalize a few details. So if you know somebody needs a ride or if you'd like to help give people rides, just let us know. We've got lots of great stuff coming up on that. We're going to do everything possible to make sure that everyone's taken care of and, of course, taken care of safely with masks and to the best distancing. All right. Well, I don't believe we have any more questions on that note. So we'll adjourn for the evening, but we hope to see you. We're looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. Again, we've got some really critical areas that we need to cover. I know a lot of areas have already been covered, so these are some holes currently across Dallas County. We want to make sure those folks are ready to vote and vote the whole Democratic ticket. So we need your assistance. And if you need any more materials or information for your precinct, please let us know. As a reminder, we will print your precinct chair letters, or precinct organizer letters. We will print you labels. So there's plenty of stuff available if you need it. Just let us know. All right.
That was beautiful, Zach. Good job.
Any parting words, Will?
Just don't burn out, guys. I'm not saying anybody is, but we're so close to the finish line and we can really get this asshole out of there. I think we have a winning shot. Though I don't sound very enthusiastic, but I truly believe it. And come lit drop on Saturday. There's going to be donuts, maybe some coffee, things of that nature. And yeah, I'm good if you're good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We always look forward to seeing y'all every week. If you, again, have any questions, my phone number is in the chat room as well as my email, and Will's putting his in right now as well. You feel free to always contact us. We're here to help on any and every level possible. If we don't have an answer, we are always going to try and seek the answer and get one for you. So 214-459-7022 is for me, 214-708-7650 for Will. You can always get us at zach@dallasdemocrats.org or willpfeiffer@gmail.com. Let us know if you need anything. Otherwise, we'll be seeing you Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.